So, you want a Switch 2, but your parents keep saying, "You already have a Nintendo Switch 1, honey." But that's the old one. I want the Switch 2. Well, that's Nintendo Switch too bad.
You need to leave!
Or you're a late 20-something like me, and you have to budget for a Switch 2 among all the other things that are so expensive these days. Why would you buy a Switch 2 when you could put that same money towards 7 tanks of gas? Really? Only 7 tanks? I thought it'd be more. But after getting the Switch 2 at launch and using it as my main console for the past year, I can confidently say that the Switch 2 is not just the same console with a new number slapped on it. In today's video, I will be ranking every single upgrade that the Switch 2 has over the original Switch 1. From the improved graphics to the brand new C button. And we'll be judging whether each upgrade feels worth it or not worth it for that $500 price tag. I would say $450 price tag, but if you're watching this video anytime after September 2026, the Switch 2 has had an almost certainly permanent price increase in the United States from $450 to $500 smackaroos. Most families who would consider buying Nintendo stuff, because Nintendo has this reputation of being a really great gaming brand for families, it's their primary market, now need a really good reason to drop $1,000 on Nintendo's latest console. Give me a reason! I'll try to. Starting with, the Switch 2 is arguably worth buying because it's a better, more powerful system. It's pretty insane to say out loud that the Switch 1 came out all the way back in 2017, almost 10 years ago now. I was in college, bro. My back is hurting just talking about it. And those who didn't have boots on the ground at the time may not realize this, but the Switch 1's hardware was dated right when it came out at launch. Nintendo purposefully selected tech that was easier to acquire, it was a little cheaper to be able to sell the Switch at such an affordable price. When the Switch 2 came out nearly a decade later, people were really craving more power from this guy. And Nintendo absolutely delivered. Imagine if I threw my baby to the ground. It's okay. It's okay, little one. But yeah, the Switch 2 gives you pretty much everything you'd want out of a modern console. You got your 4K graphics. You got 120 frames per second. Why that many? That's insane, but they can do it. Most games play at either 30 or 60 frames. And usually what gamers are looking for are consistent 60 frames per second. And if you have to do 30 frames, at least a consistent 30 frames per second. But yeah, Switch 2, by being able to get up to 120 frames per second, it can handle a lot of your typical 60 and 30 frame games just fine. And the few examples of games that run on this thing at 120 FPS are super impressive. You got Hades 2 from Nintendo. You also have Metroid Prime 4, which is a admittedly controversial game, but it runs at that 120 frames per second. And it's one of the most beautiful games you can play on the system. I still admittedly need to play it, but ooh, that footage. I'm showing you right now, you see how good it is. The Switch 2 is powerful enough to handle games like Cyberpunk 2077 with ease. The original game was a PS4 game, and the DLC that comes included was something that could only really run on PS5 level consoles. Yeah, the Switch 2 can handle PS4 to PS5 level games, while also allowing you to bring them on the go. This version of Final Fantasy VII has graphics closer to the PS5 version than the PS4 version, and you can take it on the go. That makes it arguable of whether you'd want to get this version or the PS5 release. You have your arguments for both. If you go PS5, you do get the best looking game. Switch 2's biggest struggle in the graphics department is it has a really hard time with hair textures. Cloud's beautiful blonde hair looks a little rough in this version of the game. But at the end of the day, most of us don't super care about that. It's just super cool to be able to get modern games on the Nintendo Switch 2. Whenever you would get more modern games on the original Switch, they were always considered miracle ports. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got this running on the Switch 1. And we're getting a bunch of major third-party releases day and date on the Switch 2. Capcom absolutely dominated the Switch 2 in 2026. Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata, Monster Hunter Stories 3. All of these major banger releases from the company releasing on the Switch 2 at the same time as it comes out everywhere else. That was pretty much unheard of on the Switch 1. The important thing is the power of the Switch 2 makes the future of the games able to come to this system way more secure. If we look back at the example of Final Fantasy VII, this game is part of an ongoing trilogy where we are still waiting for the third and final entry to come out. When this massive experience comes out, it will be on all platforms, including Switch 2. That is going to be a huge moment in gaming history, and Switch fans now have the chance to catch up on their Final Fantasy VIIs and experience the final entry with everyone else when it comes out. As of recording, the second Final Fantasy VII, let's call it by its subtitle Rebirth to make things less confusing, Rebirth is fully a PS5 game and is much grander in scale than its predecessor. And the Switch 2 still handles it great. Again, your PS5 version will always look the best, but the fact that the Switch 2 doesn't explode when it plays Rebirth is a testament to how third-party games thrive off of the Switch 2's power. First-party Nintendo games are also benefiting from the power bump. Donkey Kong Bonanza was originally a Switch 1 game, and throughout development they realized they need a little more power to realize their vision of fully destructible environments. You can destroy everything you see in this game. It's what makes this game super unique and a 10 out of 10 game for a lot of people. For me, it was a 7 out of 10. It is definitely a system seller, a must-play if you get the Switch 2. And yeah, it wouldn't have been possible without the Switch 2. The launch game, Mario Kart World, began development as Mario Kart 9 back on the Switch 1, but then as the team decided on their open world concept that they wanted to do, they also realized, hey, we should put this on the new Nintendo console. Utilize the Switch 2's power, baby! And that game is so pretty, man. You really do feel that upgrade in visuals and performance when playing Switch 2 games. Last physical game I own for my Switch 2 that I wanted to show off real quick is Kirby Air Riders. This game moves at an insanely fast pace. It has beautiful color and lighting. It's one of these simple to learn, hard to master games. I think everyone should give this one a try. This was my only 10 out of 10 game from 2025. If you would like to see me rank all the games I played in 2025, click the video. YouTubers always shillin', man. Like, comment, subscribe. It really makes a difference. So yeah, the main reason you would want to get a Switch 2 is it's more powerful, all the new games are coming to it, and it's no longer just I'm picking a Nintendo console, so I'm really only picking Nintendo games for the most part. The Switch 2 has great support from all the gaming industry. You can feel comfortable in your purchase of this thing that most games you'd want to play will be on it. Ultimately, you can't play everything on one device. If you want to play every game that was out there, you'd most likely need a Switch 2 and a PC. But now you can play most games on this thing, so that's sick. My rank for the Switch 2's power and performance is totally worth it. But it's not all about the new games. If you're considering upgrading from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2, you probably already have a decent collection of Switch 1 games like myself here. Well, this is the cherry on top. The Switch 2 runs your Switch 1 games even better than the Switch 1. This comes down to hardware again. More powerful hardware means games that may have been struggling to perform before now perform even better on the Switch 2. And Switch 2 does this little magic trick where if you go into your settings menu and turn on this thing called boost mode, you can actually play your Nintendo Switch 1 games in 1080p resolution like you would on the TV. If you don't know, when you undock your Switch 1, the visuals you're seeing are exactly half the resolution of what you get on the TV. Your Switch 1 in handheld runs games at 720p, and then it runs them in 1080p when you dock it. But Switch 2, you can ignore all that confusion, because it plays that nice HD 1080p in both docked and handheld mode. Basically, that concept of the Switch 1 being this way to bring your TV games on the go, you're even closer now to that TV experience when playing handheld on the Switch 2. That is so dang cool. That wasn't even a feature at launch. They added that in later in an update. Nintendo is actively in the background finding ways to get the most out of this console. Switch 2 is a better Switch 1. Like literally, play Switch 1 games better. My rank for the Switch 2's backwards compatibility, and that backwards compatibility actually improving upon Switch 1 games, that is 1,000,000% worth it. Are you kidding me? You're telling me I already have all these Switch 1 games and I'm gonna be able to enjoy them even more on the Switch 2? Oh, I'm so excited about this next one. The third reason you'd want to upgrade from a Switch 1 to a Switch 2 is the Switch 2's new and improved Joy-Cons 2. Yeah, that's literally their name. You can tell that I have them on backwards here, and that's one, because I don't want to catch the reflection glare on the Switch 2's screen, and also I want to show off to you this system's magnets. These magnets, you can slap them onto the console any which direction, upside down here. Wow, that's so crazy. She's so quirky, putting on her Joy-Cons upside down and backwards on her Switch 2. So yeah, instead of our classic rail system that the Switch 1 uses, the Switch 2 replaces those with the most satisfying magnetized snap-on Joy-Cons. Just look at this. Oh, like, this in itself is a toy. I feel like when the Switch 1 came out, it was really magical to pop the system in and out of the dock. And that's still pretty magical, but you know, we might take that thing for granted. But I'm constantly messing around with my Switch 2 Joy-Cons. Just pop it on, pop it off. The magnet Joy-Cons are definitely the first thing I like to show people when showing off my Switch 2. Who doesn't love magnets? It's a built-in toy, it's a built-in fidget to my system. Not to mention, the magnets are way stronger than the rails here. I have no problems with this thing feeling loose after a year of use. I've been using this thing over the past year. You don't want to hold your console by just one Joy-Con like that. That doesn't feel great. I feel kind of more secure doing that with the rail system on the Switch 1. But overall, these Joy-Cons always get loose. They're always like shaking around in there. You're always feeling like your Joy-Con getting loose, breaking is inevitable. They get the job done, but they're pretty crappy. Joy-Con drift, anyone? And we do have to critique the brand new Joy-Con. They have the exact same technology in the thumbsticks as the Switch 1. So even though I personally haven't experienced Joy-Con drift yet with these guys, I haven't seen a lot of reports of people saying they've experienced Joy-Con drift with their Switch 2 Joy-Cons. Time will tell how much of a problem Joy-Con drift is with these newer controllers. Jury's still out on that one. Literally, Nintendo stalled out the courts on their original Nintendo Switch Joy-Con drift lawsuit. They were able to not get in trouble by pretty much pretending the problem doesn't exist. So we risk repeating it with the new controllers. These Joy-Cons are also bigger, size comparison. This one feels way better to play when you're doing the, oh, I'm on the go, I want to play Mario Kart, me and this other person, we have to split up our Joy-Cons. We have to play in this functional but not optimal way, but these Joy-Cons are bigger. They're better than the first Switch's Joy-Cons. You have way bigger shoulder buttons with the Switch 2 Joy-Cons. So yeah, these are just way more comfortable as a solo controller now. Super appreciated. But wait, there's more. These things also perform one other stroke of magic. The Switch 2 Joy-Con also functions as a computer mouse. This is genuinely so cool, and we are only seeing the beginning of the possibilities with Switch 2 mouse mode. A bunch of PC games that were complicated to bring over to the Nintendo Switch now have a natural way to implement their control schemes onto the Switch 2. Point and shoot games like Metroid Prime 4 are so smooth with the mouse. Potential Game of the Year Pokopia is this cozy Pokemon, Minecraft, Animal Crossing crossbreed game. There's a lot of options you can do with the building and terraforming in Pokopia. You can pretty much design that world however you want. And mouse mode in Pokopia makes your range of controls way wider since you can literally just click around. Gosh, mouse mode is cool. Ranking the Switch 2 Joy-Cons? Yeah, I'd say they're pretty worth the upgrade. This next Switch 2 upgrade is a little forgettable. So forgettable, in fact, that I forgot to talk about it in my original recording of this video. I'm talking about Game Share. Game Share is really cool in theory. Basically, it allows anyone with a Switch 2 system to host multiplayer games with other Nintendo Switches in the room. All you need is one person with the Switch 2 and them hosting the game on their system, and then anyone else in the room with a Nintendo Switch can connect to your game and play with you. And your friends who connect to your game through Game Share don't have to have a Switch 2 themselves. They can still be rocking their Nintendo Switch 1. If that doesn't blow your mind, maybe the fact that you can play Donkey Kong Bonanza, a Switch 2 game, over Game Share will impress you a little more. You could play that game in co-op with a friend, and your friend doesn't need the new console to play the new game. At the end of the day, this is achieved by streaming, but this shouldn't be possible, right? Playing new games on your old system. This sounds awesome. So why did I forget to talk about it initially? The simple fact is, I haven't had a chance to try Game Share. Its uses are very limited. You see, Game Share isn't usable for every single Switch game. There is a select list of games that you can play on Game Share, which I'll show the most current version of that list on screen now. And so, very cool idea, but it has very limited use cases, and I haven't used it. I'm gonna rank Nintendo Switch 2 Game Share as not worth upgrading for most people. Some people will get a lot out of Game Share. The next thing you might choose to upgrade to a Switch 2 for is the brand new C button. Ooh, ah. I'ma be real, I don't think we needed a whole new button for game chat. Literally, when someone sends you a game chat request, you can accept it by hitting the home button. So I don't know why it couldn't have just been a hold the home button, you get all your normal things like airplane mode, brightness, volume. You could have had your game chat controls on that little sidebar as well. Making a whole C button for it was kind of dumb. But the game chat in question that pops up when you press your C button, now that's pretty cool. Nintendo has finally caught up to Xbox Live and Discord, and we now have a built-in game chatting feature on the Switch 2. It's a really nice, versatile way to be able to play games with your friends online. Don't want to shell out for a brand new camera, which is a separate purchase from the Switch 2. That's okay. Game chat still works with just your voice. The voice chat is super clear. I've used game chat while my fiance was vacuuming the apartment, and it didn't ruin my conversation with my friend while I was gaming on the couch. There's a really nice accessibility feature where you can subtitle you and your friend's conversation, and you can see your conversation caption in real time if that's helpful to you. You would want the game chat function to work, and it works really, really well. It is a very clean and seamless user experience. Not only can you share your voice and your face with your friends, you can also live out your streamer fantasy and share your gameplay with your friends. This has been a game changer for my friend Max and I when we play Pokemon. Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green came out for the Switch, and we both got those for the nostalgia. And right now, we are running a Soul Link. And we're able to keep up with that because of game chat. When we feel like playing, we'll just hop online. It's so cool to know what Xbox 360 gamers felt like back in the day. Game chat, I'm gonna say it's not worth upgrading to a Switch 2, but if you already have friends who are on the Switch 2, or have friends who you know will want to get a Switch 2, it is a really nice option to connect with your friends online. I'm also excited for the Switch 2 Star Fox to come out and get the Snapchat Star Fox character filters that come with the game. I'm gonna be testing out the webcam on the Switch 2 and making myself look like Fox McCloud while playing Pokopia. I want to thank you for making it this far into the video. Thanks for letting me ramble at you for this long. If you're still here, you're probably pretty interested in buying a Switch 2. So I think it's only right to help you make the most informed purchase possible, and real quick run through some ways in which the Switch 2 is a downgrade from the Switch 1, at least the Switch 1 OLED edition. We're also going to be switching over to B-roll now because my camera died. Switch 1 OLED edition came out halfway through the Switch's 8-year life cycle and gave it a better battery and an OLED screen. Switch 2, on the other hand, went back to an LCD screen, which basically why you want OLED is able to do definition in dark areas way better. You see way more details in the dark with an OLED screen. So technically, image quality in terms of light and color is better on the Switch 1 than the Switch 2. Switch 2 has a more powerful screen, things process better, but your image is the highest fidelity on your Switch 1 OLED. Since the Switch 1 OLED is also a revision console, it has incredible battery life. Switch 2, meanwhile, I can confirm from anecdotal experience, if you're flying from New England to Texas and you have a layover flight, your Switch 2 will only last for that first flight, and you're gonna have to charge either during with a battery bank or during your layover between flights at some wall outlet. Meanwhile, your Switch OLED will make it through both flights, and you are very likely to land in Texas with some battery life to spare. This guy runs miles past this guy in the battery department, and the only times I do end up using my Switch 1 OLED these days is during those long trips where I need a system that can last me longer. Carrying around portable battery banks are annoying. I think it's inevitable they'll release a Switch 2 OLED edition that has that better OLED screen, they'll work in a better battery, and that's going to be the main selling point. And I hope whatever second iteration we get of the Switch 2 is also lighter. Switch 2 is heavy. Switch 1 OLED and any other Switch 1 system is way more comfortable to play portably. So if you primarily play your Switch in portable mode, you're going to experience a lot more wrist and tricep strain playing your Switch 2. If I get carpal tunnel, it's because I've been playing my Switch 2 in bed. Instagram's been targeting my ass with this gaming pillow that you can use to play the Switch 2 in bed, and then it takes all that weight off of your wrists and arms. And the advertising's like, no more arm cramps and tingles, save your wrists. And I'm like, yes, this is obviously targeted marketing, but it's targeted correctly. If you want to get the Switch 2, you have to be prepared to work out your arms. So if I were to rank the battery, screen, and system weight, I would say the system's not worth it. But other than that, the Switch 2 is truly a fantastic sequel console. It's literally everything I wanted and more out of a Switch 2. I didn't even talk about you can play GameCube games on this thing. If you're a GameCube kid or just want to experience that library of games, that is Switch 2 exclusive and 100% worth the upgrade. All of the Switch 2's upgrades are worth it in some form or another. So if you have to convince your parents or yourself to bite the bullet and get a Switch 2, here's what I would tell you to tell them. The Switch 2 is a better Switch 1. It can play all the Switch 1 games, so you're not giving up on this collection you've accumulated. All the hot new games from Nintendo and other gaming companies, which is huge, are gonna come to this thing, so it's got a bright future ahead of it. And yeah, basically, it is a more premium console, but you are investing in that Nintendo Switch ecosystem you're already a part of. It's just gonna make your time on the Nintendo Switch Switch that much better. I really thought the year this came out, I would do a good job of balancing my use of these two consoles. I wouldn't completely forget about my Switch 1. But low-key I did. I'm doing all my gaming on the Switch 2 now. And that's the best review I can give it. Don't you dare say anything about game keycards in the comments. We made it this far. Okay, let's talk about it real quick. Some games on the Switch 2 aren't games on cartridge, they're actually game key cards. And what that means is games like Cyberpunk, they have their full game on the cartridge, but game key card games like Final Fantasy, it's just a glorified cartridge that you pop in your console and then you download your digital game onto your Switch. They call it a key card because it's like a key to your car. Final Fantasy is on your Switch, but you can only play it if the key is in the ignition. There's pros to it, but it's something that most people don't like. So if you're a physical collector, that is something to be wary of if you switch over to the new console. Switch over. I'd like to finish off today's video by challenging you to write your pitch to sell the Switch 2 to your mom or yourself in the comments down below. Pretend I'm your dad. Whoa, that's weird. Maybe don't. But pitch me in the comments down below why I should buy you the Switch 2. It's only fair. I just pitched it to you for the last however many minutes. And after you leave that comment, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, stay super.